Nations Trust Bank just dropped a huge number, a 23% surge in profit. But is that number telling you the whole story? Let's figure out what's really driving their performance.
This presentation represents my personal opinions and is for informational purposes only, not financial advice. Adjusted data reflects my personal proprietary models and may differ from official audited statements.
Right, so let's talk about that big number, 23%. That's the year-over-year profit growth they're reporting. And look, on the surface, that's a fantastic figure. But the real story, the one you actually need to pay attention to, is buried a little deeper. And here is the first major disconnect. That 23%, it's a bit of an illusion. When you look at the bank's core business, the actual money they make from interest on loans, that only went up by 8%. So you have to ask yourself, where on earth did the rest of that growth come from? And that's what I'm calling the 23% profit paradox. So let's deconstruct this headline number and see what's really inside. Aha, and here's our answer. It all comes down to this massive, and I mean massive, 5.8 billion rupee swing in net trading income. Now, this is a one-off gain, right? It has absolutely nothing to do with their day-to-day banking operations. What happened is they went from a big loss last year to a big gain this year, and that one swing created the entire illusion of that huge profit growth. Okay, but digging into that actually reveals a much more important question. We know the bank's loan book grew by a staggering 45%. So how is it possible that their core income from all that lending only grew by 8%? The math just doesn't add up. The answer to that puzzle lies in a metric called net interest margin, or NIM for short. Think of it as the bank's profit margin on its main job, lending money. And here's the problem. Their NIM got squeezed, pretty hard actually. It dropped all the way down to 6.15%. What that means in plain English is that because of falling interest rates, they were making less profit on every single rupee they loaned out. And that is the smoking gun. That's what explains this huge gap between massive loan growth and pretty weak core profit. Now, this pressure on their profit margin isn't just some isolated event. It's directly connected to something else happening on their balance sheet, a pretty significant mismatch, actually. Just look at these two bars. You've got loans growing at a blistering 45%. But deposits, which is basically the fuel for those loans, grew at less than half that pace. That's what you call a funding gap. And when you're lending out money way faster than you're taking it in, that creates some serious pressure. We measure that pressure with something called the loan-to-deposit ratio, or LDR. It's a really important number that tells you how liquid a bank is. Basically, how much of their lending is covered by stable deposits from customers, like you and me. Because of that mismatch, NTB's LDR has climbed all the way up to 90%. Think about that. For every 100 rupees they have in deposits, they're lending out 90. That's tight. It's basically a flashing yellow light warning you about potential liquidity risk down the road. Okay, but it's not all doom and gloom. To really understand what's going on, you have to look at the other side of the coin, the bank's resilience. Let's talk about their safety net. And honestly, on this front, the story is fantastic. Even with all that crazy fast loan growth, their asset quality is pristine. Their bad loan ratio, it's just a tiny 1.03%. That's incredibly low. It tells you they're not just handing out money to anyone, they're not sacrificing quality for quantity. And it gets even better. Their capital position is, for lack of a better word, a fortress. Their Tier 1 capital ratio is at 18.9%. The regulators only require 8.5%, so they have more than double the required capital. That is a huge, huge safety buffer. So that raises the question, right? Why are they holding on to so much extra cash? And that brings us to the strategic endgame. This is where all the pieces of the puzzle start to fit together. You see, being this overcapitalized isn't just about defense. It's about offense. It's about creating strategic options. It gives the bank the firepower, the war chest, to make some really big moves without having to go back to shareholders and ask for more money. And here is that big move. That massive pile of capital is what's funding their 18 billion rupee acquisition of HSBC's retail business. Now, this isn't just about getting bigger for the sake of it. No, this is a surgical strike. It's a move specifically designed to solve the two biggest problems we just identified. It should help plug that deposit funding gap, and it gives them a clear path to hopefully fix their shrinking profit margin. So let's just boil this all down to 3 key takeaways. Number 1, you've always got to look past the flashy headline number to understand the real core trends.
Number 2, a rising loan-to-deposit ratio is a huge flag for liquidity risk that you need to monitor. And number 3, excess capital isn't just a boring safety net, it's strategic firepower for making game-changing acquisitions. If you appreciate this kind of deep dive analysis, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, because this is what we do here. And that leaves us with the one big question looking forward. Can this huge strategic bet on HSBC's business actually solve NTB's funding puzzle? And will it be enough to reignite their core profit growth? Well, that is exactly what we'll be watching.